This is Rick Rule for Rule Investment Media, sponsors of the Natural Resources Investment Symposium, July 7th through 11th in Boca Raton, Florida. Whether you attend live in Boca Raton or via live stream in the comfort of your own home, we're going to deliver you between 50 and 60 hours of programming, more than you can absorb in the 4 days that we have allocated. As a consequence of that, recordings of the conference will be available for you to use for a very long time after the conference. And also, we are recording interviews with every single exhibitor before the conference so that you have the opportunity to allocate your time wisely. Please note that every public company exhibitor is owned in accounts that are owned or managed by myself. That's both a conflict of interest, which we acknowledge, and also your guarantee that every single exhibitor at our conference has been vetted, unlike any other investment conference in the world that I know of. Today, I have the good fortune, in fact, the honor of interviewing a friend of mine of some standing now, Mike McNeilly, founder and CEO of Strata Investment Holdings. Mike, first of all, thank you for your efforts on behalf of shareholders, myself included, and thank you too for your ongoing sponsorship of the Natural Resources Investment Symposium.
Thank you, Rick. Really appreciate it, and I'm glad to be back.
I think it's best probably to describe Strata as a mining merchant bank, a company that exposes shareholders to investments made in early stage resource opportunities that they might not otherwise have access to as individual investors. Is this a correct characterization of the investment proposition from your point of view?
Certainly, it certainly is, and I think it's going to evolve, hopefully, into something that's even bigger and greater and of a larger scale than where we currently sit today. We are, as we noted in our accounts, we're currently working on a complementary investment, which could be transformational, and I'm hoping that we will have some big news to drop before the conference. That will really catapult the business forward. In terms of the business, though, currently as we stand today, we have multiple high conviction investments. We have a royalty, which I'd say is perhaps one of the best copper royalties on the planet, because I don't think you find a copper royalty over an entire emerging copper belt that's had multiple M&A transactions through it in the last 5 years, including recently the $1.85 billion acquisition by MMG of Koemaku, Cooper Canyon's Koemaku mining project. So yes, we've got a great exposure to the space, multiple commodities, with a strong focus on precious and copper. And more recently, we've diversified into rare earths in quite a large way. In terms of 2 out of our what I'd call 5 high conviction investments are actually in Brazilian rare earths, so we're pretty confident that there's a lot of space for the rare earth ex-China to grow over the next 3 to 4 years based on our analysis, and plenty of room for lots of players if they can figure out the network, which hasn't proven to be easy. Certainly at the only ionic clay deposit outside of China at Cerro Verde, it hasn't been easy, but that's always an advantage if you're not the first cab off the rank, as you can learn from the mistakes of others.
Let's deal with the royalty first. It was your exploration activities in Southern Africa that originally drew me to the company. And I think you had the good sense, rather than taking a carry to working interest, of converting your interest to a royalty. So let's talk about that royalty, which I suggest is probably worth the company's entire market cap.
Yeah, it's currently not accounted for in our books as being worth our company's entire market cap, but certainly given the level of interest that we've received, and as recently as this week, I'm basically asking, what are you looking to do with that royalty? Are you getting ready to deal on it yet? From very large royalty companies who have very low cost of capital. The royalty is essentially over, it's with Sandfire Resources. It's over an entire copper belt, essentially. So about 8,000 square kilometers, but more to the point is that it's over there. It's actually got the royalty area and everything in the main license around the T3 Mateo mine, which just expanded to 5.2 million tons per annum. And actually, if you look at kind of their monthly run rate, sometimes they've been exceeding 5.7. So they're really putting the plant through the works. A4 is going to be the first cab off the rank, and that's got about 134,000 ton resource, and the reserves are about 114,000 tons. That resource was done at a 0.54% cutoff grade and a $3.40 a pound copper price, with around an $18 silver price an ounce. So we see already there's room for that to increase in terms of what they're actually going to put through the plant. We've only accounted for it in our books at what we can, which is the reserves. They've completed another 29 holes on that recently and are continuing to explore down dip and along strike at the A4 deposit. Consequently, they also recently announced in their quarterly an additional discovery about 20 kilometers away from the plant of 5.6 million tons at 1.2% for a little over 70,000 tons of copper and 2 million ounces of silver. So that will obviously need to factor into what we can account for the royalty. And they also have expressed the super confidence that they will, through infill drilling, expand that resource, and it's open along strike and down dip. And that's just one of several targets within what we call trucking distance. And you have to look at it from Sandfire's point of view. They have a mine life that currently sits at around 9 years, and some of that has already been used up. So they're probably looking at 8. So in the next 2 to 3 years, they really need to start exploring around that mine to start to show to the market that they're going to be able to expand the mine life. And Brendan Harris, the CEO of Sandfire, said publicly that he's hoping that he can get about 1 year of additional mine life from the reserves at A4. So by increasing that, and then about maybe 2 to 3 years of additional mine life at A1, and that's not including any other discoveries. That's not including any other work that they'll do, but obviously, from a royalty valuation perspective, you need to focus on the near-term cash flow. But there's substantial blue sky upside on that. And finally, what we don't talk about much because it doesn't get factored into our accounts at all is we have a 2% NSR over about another 6,000 square kilometers, and that's in an area of ground that I'd say is most interesting is at Kit West, which just won the BHP Explore program. A BHP Explore program is basically like a incubator for high conviction, big ideas, looking for tier 1 deposits, where they put you through this program to really corporatize you and get you into their way of thinking and give you access to all of their technical team. And there's a few targets there that, working with them, we should be shortly at Cobre doing some passive and active seismic over very advanced targets. And it'll be the first time in the belt that anybody's had that many layers of data for a specific target. So I think we've got another catalyst coming towards the end of the year when we finally put some holes into that could seriously improve the value of the royalty. So I see us getting in the range of 200. We're already over 200, but let's say call it 220 to 250,000 just on the work that's going on into reserves, on the work that's going into A4 and A1. And if it starts to get into the range of 400,000, 500,000 tons of copper, this royalty will sell for well multiples in excess of our market cap, which is 44 million Australian dollars.
So at the beginning of this discussion, you evidenced particular interest in your rare earth activities. If you could briefly describe those activities and how you see that accruing to the benefit of shareholders in the future.
Sure. So we have two large holdings. One is in Viridis Mining and Metals, taken the slightly contrarian view there, which is not going for the first cab off the rank, which is MEI's deposit in Minas Gerais, which is essentially a caldera, which is basically a collapsed volcano, and basically they have the same ground as MEI. They have yet to put out an MRE. They're at a 91 million cap. MEI is sort of floating around the 450s. They brought on a very, very competent team member who's ex Serra Verde's chief operating officer, and also was with Linus. I personally think, from our math, that there's room over the next 4 to 5 years for about 4 MEIs from what we could calculate, ex-China. So that means that there's a strong value disconnect, and there's some key catalysts that are coming. We're up about 20% on the position, so it is doing well. I think there's room for us to do much better as they start to show a maiden resource estimate in the coming months. That could be, in our estimates, that could be anywhere from 200 to 300 million tons at a similar grade. But they have some northern licenses that have higher heavies, so dysprosium and terbium, than MEI. Ultimately, I do think the whole area will probably get developed, subject, of course, to the network working, which is always the key risk in these things. But I'm not necessarily going to play this stock until through to development. The other one is Reserve Strategic Metals. That's listed on the TSX currently, and just lodged its prospectus to do a list on the ASX. It's very, very tightly held by Australian fund managers and ultra high net worths, with about 85% of the register, with people we know quite well. They have drilled out about 9% of their ground, and they're getting very, very consistent grades. And they're quite unique in the sense that they're actually a collapsed caldera. So it should be, basically free dig. It's the side of basically a volcano that's collapsed and then transported the material that is weathered over about 70 million years. They believe it's truly ionic. We've done a lot of work on that. We do think the met's going to be slightly more complicated than your traditional one, but there should be things that come out in the next 6 to 9 months that solve that. They're working with Ansto and others. Why do we like it? Because it's also the highest grade titanium oxide deposit on the planet, and they've only drilled 9% of the resource, or 9% of the area on which they're going to declare a maiden resource, and they're sitting at about a 40 million cap. And I'm very confident that, given the disconnect in valuation between rare earth companies on the TSXV and the ASX, that the stock should re-rate quite nicely when it does its dual listing.
Michael,
that's a very high-level overview without going into the technical details.
which is of course all we have time to do. We'll go into a lot of detail at the conference. I think, in summary, that this is my statement. We have a royalty that's probably worth the market cap. We have a process at Strata to involve Strata shareholders, by extension, in the process by which value is created, participating at the early stage by creating that stage. And we have at least 2 upcoming opportunities in rare earths to see the fruits of that sooner rather than later. If our attendees are interested in hearing more and getting involved in Strata, who should they contact, and how might they contact that person?
They should contact me, and they should send me an email at info@strataplc.com. So that's info@strataplc.com. And that's a mailbox which I monitor. So it's not my work email, just simply because I like to keep them separated, but I will monitor it, and please do get in touch, and I'm more than happy to have a conversation and to take you through the value proposition. And I can't tell you what we're working on, but I suspect before the conference, there will be something that will be very interesting, and hopefully people reach out.
Well, Michael, thank you for your efforts on behalf of shareholders, myself included. Thank you, too, for your ongoing support of the Natural Resources Investment Symposium. We look forward to any big disclosures that you might make either before or during the conference. Thank you again.
Thank you, Rick. Thanks for your time, and I'm looking forward to it.